Hello dear viewers, welcome to Geonodes Daily series where we do something cool in geometry nodes in as close as possible to 10 minutes as I can anyway. Today's subject is creating an animated counter made of pins like you see in this demo. It's a very interesting project and I'm gonna walk you through the most important parts of it. If you want to see the shading, make sure to click on the top right link in the card or the link in the description, and that will take you to that video. Before we start, I want to tell you why it's important to subscribe, like, and comment to the videos. It seems that the Google algorithm that is behind the YouTube is placing great emphasis on this, and if you have a lot of subscribers and likes and the comments on your videos, they will recommend the content to more people. So if you find the content on this channel valuable, you can help it grow by doing these things, like, subscribe, and comment on the videos. Now let's start. This is a very interesting use case for the nested instances. At the end of this video, I'm planning to give you more in-depth look at the project and also at nested instances, and hopefully you will have a better understanding on it. So let's start with the procedural counter. We will do a bit of math, but it's not very complicated. I want to have the frame here, and because I'm going to render this in 24 frames, I want to have the frame number here, and using a simple math divide operation, we will get a seconds counter from this, an incrementer based on the second. Okay, and now let's go to text. Let's do value to string, plug this value here, and then this string will be string to curve and also fill curve, and when connecting all this stuff with the output, we will get this 1 second incrementer. Let me change this to a higher value so we don't care about that one. And I want to add something else on top of this. I will like to do another value in here, and let's say 100, and by duplicating this divider and switch it to add, we can get this. Now we can see an incrementer like this. That is basically going all the way to whatever number we want. That's the basic setup for this stuff. So let's put this one here, and let's move on to the next point. Turn the digit into pins and animate the height. Let me quickly save the project. And for that, we are going to need a few nodes. Let's go to instances, and actually points, distribute points on faces. From instances, we are going to need instance on points, and then of course the set position. This is going to be important. And what else? We will need scale instances, and things are getting complex, but it's not bad. Let's do this cube. This will be our instance. So let's plug this one here. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger, and we'll need some instances. Let's say, like, let's try with 1000 to begin with, and then I want this set position here, because now when we're going to plug these instances here, that we kind of have to make it smaller. I'm gonna want to move it along, but let's see first how. Let's make this value like something small, something like this. And I want to get rid of this outline, and we get this. We can leave this one on 1 for the moment. And the first thing we see is the distribution. It's not exactly what I want. I want something more even. So let's do a Poisson here, and for this Poisson I would like to have let's say something like this, and then increase this density. Let's put it to 1000 again. It's looking more even. Now it's even more even, but I want to have a different distance here in a procedural way. So let's do a vector math and add a value, and this value will have this number, this number that we will plug here, and this value we will use a bit of math and do like divide on it. Half of this value will be the size of the pins, so they don't intersect with each other. And now we can do a combined XYZ vector and have this Z on 1 and this plugged here and this one here. And now we get kind of what I wanted. And we can increase the factor even more. Yeah, I think more. It's gonna be better. Something like this. And now we have this interesting stuff going on here. And I want to start with the animating part of this. And how are we going to do this? Not very complicated. We will take this node here, and this node is going to be our new scale. So let's leave x and y to 1, and now we are going to play with this value here. And what do we want? We want the original second counter from here, and we will do stuff with it. So let's do that. I'm gonna add a math node, okay, and plug the output of this, the second counter, and I want to go back and forth in a time frame of 1 second. So let's use ping pong for this with a scale of 0.5, that meaning at the half of the second we will get this value. And let's pass this one to a map range. So let's plug this one here, and now let's do it from 0 to 0.5 with the interval, and in this interval, half a second, we want to put the scale from 2 all the way to, let's say, 0.5 or something like that. And now connecting this to the Z value, we get this. As in an interval of a second, when this changes, we get this. And now let's fix this problem, because I don't like the fact that things are going like this. I want this to start at 0. So we have a basic standard start at 0, so the movement happens only on the height, not both sides. And that's easy to do by moving the origin of the cube that we used to this value. And this one is not plugged correctly. This one should be plugged here after the scale of the cube, not the points. And now we get what we wanted. So that's how you can do the simple pin counter movement. So that's gonna be another frame here. That's gonna be another frame here. And let's move to the third point, adding the waving motion. And that's the interesting part. I'm going to talk more in the finished project, because if we hover over these values, we have 3 instances here, and we go out here, we have 3 instances. And how is that possible? Because we have a lot of instances here. Because between this and this, we have different number of instances. But we will care about that later. First, let's just do a simple wave motion. And I want to make things wavy on the X and on the Y also. So looking at this, I want to make it on the X and on the Y. So if it's based on position, let's bring the position in. So this is the position, and let's break it out, because we want to play with the X and Y axis. And then we are going to need also a combine of this. So let's do FFF for these ones. And actually, no, we only want to play with these values. This we are going to leave alone, X and Y. And this will be plugged here in the scale here. And everything goes flat. Awesome. This is what we want to do. And now we are basically accessing all the instances here, because we do this before, after the instancing and before we instance this. So we play with the instances that are basically inside of here, between these two nodes. While here we are playing with the instances that are outside, meaning the individual digits. That's really cool and a little bit confusing, but not too much. Now that we have this, I want to access this frame and do some math on it. So let's add a math node, utilities, math. I'm gonna plug this value here. So what do we want to do in a second time? I'm not gonna split this one. Well, we want to add this position to it, and let's duplicate this one. Actually, Control Shift D, duplicate, and plug the Y. And now we can play with these two values. So let's duplicate these two, and let's switch this one. Actually, we want to select both, and let's go to cos. Keep pressing Alt, click, and you change both of them to the cosine. And then we connect this one here and this one here. Awesome. Let's add this. And then let's do another add operation. And let's add these two together. And once we do this, let's add a map range. Plug this one here. We know the cosine and sine are from -1 to 1. And all it's left for us to do is to decide what we want to do with this value. Let's plug it here and decide a minimum and a maximum. So let's try a 0.2 for the minimum and like a 0.4 for the maximum, and see what's going on. If we check this from the front, we see nothing, but let's look from the left. And we start to see something happening here. And there is something else that we need to do. Let's increase the scale of this wave motion that we created. And the way to do this is by using another math node. But this one should be switched to multiply. And then let's duplicate this one and let's plug this one here. Alt P, and plug this one here. And we have to decide on the scale of this. I'm gonna use radians. You can use any value, but I use a full circle, 6.2483, and that's gonna give us this that you see here. This is from the front, from the left, and from the top. So you get to see this nice waving motion. That will be how to add waving motion to this stuff. And that's gonna be it for this part. Now let's do an overview of the finished setup. Okay, this is a little bit more complex. So this is the finished project. It's gonna look something like this. As you can see here, we have the background with the pins, and this is the setup. It's kind of look a little bit scary, but it's not too complicated. This is what we did, the second timer. Okay, I need to do something first because this is kind of heavy. Let me switch off the grid. Okay, now things will go much smoother. So we did this second timer, then I added some parameters because everything you see on the screen, it's more complex. You have this Geonodes Day here, we have the subscriber text, this number here, this number here. Let me put this on different frames, something like this. And everything has to have its own modules. So we have this module that is doing the Geonodes Daily that you see here on top. And then we have the counter for the number of videos that is here. And it has a little bit of math behind it. Now it's just a general overview. I'm going to give you a little bit more detail on this. The subscriber build count here and the counter, the slow and fast. You have two animations. This is the slow one, and at the beginning is the fast one. Okay. There is a value here that, let's move it here. Okay. So things looks more complex, but they are still based on the seconds counter. And then I use the map range and use those seconds to decide when to start and end the animation for this part. Then I did some Boolean to switch between strings and to add a leading zero or not, because at the beginning, let's say frame 7, I have a leading zero. So this is what it's doing by checking against the number 10. And then I added this counter that you saw earlier. That is also based on a switch. That is based on, I basically interconnected stuff here to create this counter. Let me make this full screen. You can grab some screens and look at these parts. And this part, this is the end, and this is the animation part. What I want to go over is something else. As you can see, if we look at the animation, this has a mask on it. So some of the letters are bigger, some of them are smaller. The one that is changing, if we go something like here, we have two digits that are changing, these two. And this gets a lot bigger than the other ones. And the way to do this thing is by creating a mask. Mask that is plugged, it's based on the value from the string. And it's using the index. So it's comparing the index with, we have 3 digits here. So basically, by looking at this digit 2 and increasing the epsilon, meaning the tolerance, based on this math. So we take the string value and then we take the length of it. So if it's from 2 characters, I'm subtracting 1. So I get 1 here. This will be our tolerance when we have 2 digits moving. And if we go somewhere where we have just 1 digit moving, then we get this string. It's 9, the last letter here, and the length is 1. So if we subtract 1, we get 0. That's the tolerance. That means we just take the instance number 2, meaning the last one. And that's then it's I added this checker to subtract the other instances from here. So if this value goes above 2, it's addressing these instances and I don't care about them. So that's fed into these scale instances that it's plugged after the distribution points after the instances, and that allows me to control at the digit level this displacement, because at this point I only have the digit instances. If I go between this one and this one, we get a lot more instances. Instead of 15 like we have here, after instancing, you kind of get a lot more. So if I look at this, I get 15 instances. That's a little bit confusing, but in reality, between these two nodes, we get instance for every cube that you see here. And this is how I build the mask on things that are outside. Why do we have 15 instances? Because I took this and I joined them. I joined the counter with the writing. So we have the writing in here, Geonodes Daily for this one, and the subscribers here. So after playing with the position to put it on the grid, I use this join geometry with the counter, and that's what gives us this. So if I do like this, you see this is the subscriber text and this is the video count. And then both of them come here, and that gives us the number of instances. And something else interesting, it's what I did for the ground to mask the points. So if I switch to a top view and activate this one, it's not a very good idea. It's kind of heavy. And I try to zoom in. We see that we kind of get some room around the instances that make the letters. So let me deactivate this one. Okay, and that's done with this mask here, that it's taking into account all that we did, letters and digits from here, and it's turning them into realized geometry, so we can use the raycast and get this isHit attribute. So if I unmode this one, it's these settings, basically you can leave it on default, and this will delete the geometry that is overlapping this text. So we can do the distribution of the pins from the background around this stuff, around the letters, so we can avoid intersection. And the setup for the background, the pin grid, it's kind of the same. It's using the same settings here for the scale of the cube. I did again the setting of the origin of these ones. I did some animation on this one, so we will not see the extra points when we render in different camera views. And this is it for it, nothing more to look at. And even though it looks complex, that's kind of all there is. As a recap, We have a mask that it's controlling the points after they are instanced. So it's basically playing with the individual characters and digits. And whatever we do inside of this, between the distribute points and instant points, it's playing with the instances that are composing the character and digits. And this is what we did previously, this setup. Everything else here is just interconnecting. So it's true, it's a little bit more complex. I tried to explain the most interesting parts from this project. I tried to keep it as short as possible, but it went quite long. So hope you found this information useful. Thank you very much for watching. And if you find this content valuable, please like and subscribe to help this channel grow. Until then, have a nice day and happy blending.